In the middle of their Australian tour, Meghan Markle did something so unexpected, it made the headlines boil over. Imagine being on a royal visit, surrounded by cameras, dignitaries, and tea. Now imagine tossing that tea into the air. Well, Meghan didn't just imagine it, she did it, allegedly. Today, we're breaking down a new article that just came out describing this incident and the potential reasons why it occurred. Stick around because this is a wild story, but before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Earlier today, we had a live stream going through a Daily Mail article that was published today about the tea incident. I know that you have such a busy schedule and sometimes you don't have enough time to watch the live. So what I've done is I've clipped it and I've kept all the juicy things we talked about. So I apologize in advance if it sounds a little choppy. I just wanted to make sure that you get the meat and potatoes of it. So without further ado, here is that live stream clip. So everything, I feel these news cycles, they're posting things that are related to one another and we're building on a story. So a couple of days ago, I don't remember exactly what the story was, but I know what it was. Richard Eden had talked about Meghan's faux pas over her time in the royal family. And one of those was her appearance at the British Fashion Awards, where she wore Givenchy, a French designer, I believe, to the British Fashion Awards. And then the next day, which was yesterday, a story came out about how horribly Meghan treated Jason Knauf, who is the royal aide in the picture on the left here, and how Meghan went to the British Fashion Awards and purposely kept Jason in the dark. The other royal aides knew that Meghan was going, but Meghan demanded that they not tell Jason. And in that same article from yesterday, it was saying by the time of the Australia tour, things between Meghan and Harry and Jason Knauf was already terrible. That was October 2018. And then we talked about how this was the video that I posted yesterday, and I'll get into that in a little bit, about how, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was reading the chat. Oh my goodness. About how, supposedly the relationships were essentially over in October, but in December, 2 months later, Jason was arranging and giving information to Omid Scobie, again, risking his reputation when the relationship, according to the article yesterday, was essentially over. Well, today, this story comes out in the Daily Mail, why Meghan Markle threw a cup of tea into the air during her miserable relationship with royal aides. This incident happened while on tour in Australia. So, according to the article that was published yesterday, by this point, the relationship was terrible between Meghan and Jason Knauf. There are literally no consequences for her behavior. I just don't understand. I don't understand it either, Kristen. I was talking to my mom about this because how is it that truly terrible people, like awful, malignant, toxic, evil people, so many of them, there's like no consequence. In fact, they seem like they're living the good life. I don't know why that's the case. And then I remind myself that it's a prison in her mind. Her brain is like, she sees, she'll never be happy because she'll always want more. She's never going to be satisfied. She's always wanting, always wanting, always wanting. And people keep turning away. And in her head, people are betraying her left. And I mean, that's a prison. That's a prison. So I tried to tell myself that. The article begins, to rapturous applause, Prince Harry and Meghan took the stage at the closing ceremony of the 2018 Invictus Games in Australia. The Games capped off a royal tour of Australia, which by all accounts had been a resounding success. Now, I want to continue with this perspective in mind, that whoever wrote this article is saying that by all accounts, this was a successful tour. This was an amazing tour. Before we get into it, though, I wanted to go and look up the closing ceremony of Invictus. So I'm going to have that playing right now. There's no audio to it. I just wanted to clip together a bunch of the moments from that closing ceremony. Meghan did give a speech on that night. I haven't watched the speech yet, but I will. But look who's there. David Beckham's there. Here is Meghan's speech, and Harry's speech. I listened to just a little bit of it. Let's play that again. What? Ooh, okay, here. Let me play that again while I get to what I was going to say. So Harry's speech, I was listening to it just kind of in the back as background noise, and he said something that had my antennas go up, and let me play that for you now. I'm going to go on mute.
They want to live rather than just be alive.
Well, does that remind anyone of anything? It totally does. Totally reminds me of something. And I'm going to play it now. So keep in mind, this is October of 2018. What I'm about to show you, I believe, is September 2019. So a full year later. I'm going to go on mute again so that you can all hear it. Wait, did you all hear it? Maybe let me play it one more. Let me play it one more time.
They want to live rather than just be alive.
So he's talking about the people that are participating in the Invictus Games, and this was October 2018, and this is something Meghan said October of 2019.
For a long time to H. That's what I call him. Yeah. It's not enough to just survive something, right? Like, that's not the point of life. You've got to thrive. You've got to feel happy.
Wow. I mean, talk about two people that are just feeding off each other. And I have to tell you, when I saw this clip, it was around the time. So I wasn't following Meghan and Harry for a long time. When my soul dog passed away in March of 2024, so literally a year and a half ago, that's when I started watching Harry and Meghan, because I couldn't watch regular TV. I couldn't predict what was going to be on. I'm still very sensitive, and I just couldn't watch anything that was unpredictable. But I knew Harry and Meghan were going to be ridiculous. And so when I saw Meghan say, it's not enough to just survive something, and you're in a place in your life where you're literally fighting to survive, like, the grief I felt was so hard that hearing Meghan say this was infuriating. It's a little less infuriating to me now, but it's still insensitive to people who are in such depths of despair that they're trying to survive. Oh, this bothered me a lot. I go by Gina. This was gross. This was in South Africa, when there are real victims out there. And the word she's saying, it's not enough to just survive. Sometimes it isn't just enough to just survive. I thought it was incredibly insensitive. She was on tour here. Yeah, she could have talked about the charities, but she made it about herself. And at this point, she's setting up for the exit. This is October 2019. Everything is already in the works. I mean, just 2-3 months before this, they were at the Lion King premiere and trying to sell themselves off as being able to do work. They're available for work. Mars says so much of what she says is condescending to those of us that struggle. Yeah. Imagine living in a palace and saying it's not enough to just survive. Girl, just go survive, okay? Even if you're palace adjacent or whatever, please. The article says there was a huge buzz around the newlyweds, with the Duchess of Sussex having just announced she was pregnant. It was the start of what was dubbed Meghan Mania. The press were equally positive in their coverage of the trip, as they praised the newly minted royals on their first major tour. However, behind the scenes, the Sussexes' relationship with the royal aides was not so rosy, and the couple's obsession with how they were being perceived by the public allegedly led them to clash with their team. Writing in his bestseller titled Revenge, Tom Bauer claimed that in contrast to the glowing photos of Harry and Meghan being recorded daily, the mood in Sussex headquarters was miserable. So let's stop here and just chat about this. There is a disconnect between what the press is describing, what Tom Bauer is saying, and this got me thinking about how Harry described the Australia tour, that Meghan was doing too well, that there's going to be consequences to this because she's making it look so easy, like Princess Diana made it look so easy. So there's just so much cognitive dissonance, I feel here, that the press is saying everything is great. Tom Bauer, I think, is the one whose perspective is probably the most I don't know, accurate, I want to say, the most unbiased. I believe Tom Bauer over the other sources, and things were not rosy. So let's continue. The article says the royal author wrote that one cause of the tension was when Meghan decided to bring her own people down under on top of the palace staff. Although the couple had arrived with 4 staff, Samantha Cohen, Amy Pickerel, Heather Wong, and Marnie Gaffney, Meghan had decided she wanted to be surrounded by people she trusted, Bauer said. Now let's put the puzzle pieces together. So we heard from yesterday's article that Harry and Meghan had already had a falling out with Jason Knauf. So they've fallen out with one. We know that Meghan used Samantha Cohen and Amy Pickerel to triangulate Jason Knauf during the British Fashion Awards, where she demanded that they not tell Jason that she was going there. And now we're hearing it wasn't just with Jason that the relationships had soured, because basically Meghan is saying here she didn't trust these people. That's why she needed to bring her own people. It's a lot. If I'm not mistaken, please let me know in the chat. When they went to the Fiji market, that was an event that was hosted by UN Women. Several years before they went to the Fiji market, Meghan wanted to be an ambassador, I believe, for UN Women, but the head of the UN Women, and I'm going to maybe pronounce her name wrong, Miss or Doctor, I don't know what her title is, Nyamanyaro, I think is her name, wouldn't give Meghan the ambassadorship, but gave her one title beneath it, I believe. And Meghan got angry and pretty much quit. So when she went to this UN Women Fiji market, because she was offended by not getting the ambassadorship, she was very angry when she saw that the women that were there were wearing UN Women t-shirts or shirts, because they were, it was an initiative by UN Women. Meghan was supposed to stay there for a prolonged period, but she essentially walked in and left. I did a video about this a while back. If I'm not mistaken, there were reporters there that saw Meghan yell at someone, allegedly, one of her aides, and this aide was later found crying in the car. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Amy Pickerel who was the one crying in the car. So I'm going to check in the chat to see if anyone has confirmed that. Okay, it was Amy Pickerel, and the witness by Rebecca English. Thank you, Carol. So it was Amy Pickerel. So this was the same trip. Meghan made Amy Pickerel cry because when they were on their tour of Australia, I believe they went to Fiji as well. Yeah, the whole thing was badly managed. Alice says, for 2 people so obsessed with their PR, they're so tone deaf about making the best of things. Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly what Carol was saying. At her request, Jessica and Ben Mulroney were flown in from Canada to provide round-the-clock support. Mulroney doubled as Meghans Stylist as she worked her show-stopping wardrobe. I want to say that Jessica Mulroney did a good job dressing her, if it was her that was dressing her around that time, for the most part, I want to say. Okay, so what I do want to say here is that just a couple months after this, so this was October, we're seeing here in black and white, it's being said that Jessica was there to be Meghans' stylist. One of the things that Meghan was very angry about that was written in Omid Scobie's and Carolyn Durant's book was that Meghan absolutely hated that Jessica was being called her stylist, that Jessica was never her stylist, that she styles herself. So I think the offense to that Meghan is taking is that she wants to be able to take credit for what she was wearing. And I think that's why she has such an offense, because I don't understand why, of all the things to be offended about, the press saying it's this. And notice that it's to provide round the clock support. Essentially, they were at Meghan's beck and call. And uh, that's terrible life to live, in my opinion. The article says, with the Mulroneys by her side, Meghan was reportedly abrasive towards her 4 female staff and even towards the local British diplomats. In one particularly dramatic outburst, Bauer claimed that Meghan allegedly threw a cup of tea in the air. This gives me pause because the implication here is that if the Mulroneys weren't there, she wouldn't be so abrasive. So why is it that when Meghan feels she's supported, that there are people there that have her side, her bullying comes out? Why is that? This is something I think I'm going to explore in a future video, because I really want to understand. I want to understand. You would think there would be shame. You wouldn't want to do it in front of other people. But here it's saying the exact opposite. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah says Jessica was a good friend to Meghan and she used Meghan also. Carol says Jessica winded her up and had no problem exploding. And this is the red flag here. This is why I'm critical towards Jessica, because Meghan's bad behavior didn't decrease when Jessica was around. In fact, a lot of the times we've heard of Meghan bullying people, including a 3-year-old child, Jessica was there. Mary says maybe to prove she's in charge and showing authority. Yeah, it totally could. Totally could be that, Mary. Carol says mean girls in the room. Yeah. TM says bullies often bully for an audience. They are cowards deep down. I wanted to dig into this a little bit deeper because the mainstream media doesn't really go into this cup of tea in the air. So I went on Reddit. I had to, because actually this was the second story that I had heard about Harry and Meghan that got me to start paying attention. So this was just published on Reddit 18 hours ago in response to the article that we're going through, and it's about Concert Otherwise 79 posted it. Why Meghan Markle threw a cup of tea into the air during her miserable relationship with royal aides. Bitter Entertainer said the rumor was that the tea was actually thrown at a palace aide, an Australian who used to work for the Queen, can't remember her name. The same woman who was the subject of palace investigation into Meghan's bullying claims. I think Tom Bauer did not want to be drawn into that hornet's nest, thus threw tea in the air, in quotation marks. Edit Samantha Cohen, the alleged victim of tea throwing in Australia. So I hadn't heard before that it was Samantha Cohen. I had read and I looked all over. I had seen on Reddit something along the lines of someone walked in and saw the moon bump allegedly laying on the bed. And that's when Meghan got mad and threw the tea. This is what I had read one time on Reddit, and I went looking for it and I could not find it. If any of you have ever read that, feel free to drop that in the comments. The next Reddit post, okay, everyone get ready to laugh. This is going to be great. Harry's Implants, hilarious name, says, yep, Aussie here. The story down under is that she threw a cup of tea at someone, not in the air. The person was paid out in compensation and for their silence. Just Us then says, I didn't throw it at anyone. I threw it in the air and they were in the way. I can see that as her defense. And then here we go. This person says, he ran into my knife. He ran into my knife 10 times. P. Quince says, and this is directly from Chicago. The hilarious thing is, as I was reading this post, I didn't throw it at anyone. I threw it in the air and they were in the way. I thought of that Chicago scene, and then I scroll down and I see this post from P. Quince and from Kiwi Love. Hilarious. The article then says the tension within Sussex headquarters was apparently partly caused by the Duke and Duchess's obsession with their media coverage during the games. Bauer wrote Meghan's anger may have been partly fueled by Harry. Every night, he trolled social media searching for snide comments on the internet. Every morning, he and Meghan turned on their phones to surf the internet. Thin-skinned, they were inflamed by the slightest criticisms. Then, both bombarded their staff with demands for retribution and removal of the criticism. This is something we read about Jason Knauf, that he wasn't removing the negative comments fast enough. That was one of their complaints about Jason Knauf. Another thing I want to research is this thing that how they're playing off of each other, how Harry, instead of calming Meghan down, is giving information that's going to fuel her anger. And it's like a downward spiral for the two of them. This is something I want to look into specifically about this incident here, about what was happening in Australia. The article continues, despite the stories having emerged in the American press, Harry allegedly blamed British newspapers for those reports. Earlier in the article, I didn't want to post the entire article because it was kind of long, but the stories they're talking about here are regarding Thomas Markle Sr. The article continues and says, Bauer said, but the only jibe he could attach to the accompanying British journalist was a report that one of Meghan's outfits cost £19,660. As a sign of Meghan's intentions, she also wore a Serena Williams brand jacket. Soon afterwards, it was promoted on Instagram. So the implication here is that Meghan was merching Serena's jacket. The coverage still angered Meghan. The article continues and says this coverage still angered Meghan, causing her to become irate and blaming the senior royal aide, Jason Knauf, and his staff for not suppressing the stories Hollywood style. I wanted to put an image of the thumbnail regarding the video where we went into what happened between Meghan and Jason Knauf in fall to late 2018. Yes, Carol, I was thinking this word exactly, but I wasn't sure if I was thinking of the right thing. There was also someone who in my comments a while ago had asked me to do a video about this topic. I just don't know a whole lot about it, but perhaps I could start broaching it and use this as an example. But yeah, it's a folie à deux, I hope I pronounced that right, is a shared psychotic disorder or shared psychotic disorder, refers to a rare condition where delusional beliefs are transmitted from one person to another, typically within a close relationship. Let's continue. Her mistake, she would lament, was believing them when they said I would be protected, Bauer wrote. He added, unsurprisingly, Meghan's fury influenced Harry's attitude towards the small British media contingent accompanying the couple. Thank you for coming, although you weren't actually invited, he snapped. He also brusquely snapped unprovoked abuse at a TV reporter. Can you believe this? Thank you for coming, although you weren't actually invited. What do you think your job is? What do you think pays for? Well, I mean, I'm not saying I don't know exactly how the finances work in the British monarchy, but of course the press is going to be there. I just don't understand the disconnect here. And that's where the live stream ends. I hope you enjoyed this video so much that you will join me on a future live stream. Please let me know all of your thoughts in the comments if you feel comfortable sharing. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to contact them, and you'll find the link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.